So welcome to episode 2 of Match Under the Microscope, where we have the opportunity to spend some time and really dig right under and see really what happened in detail with a Hendon game that manager Lee Allenson has picked as one of the 4 standout matches in his just over a year in charge with us. Lee, how are you doing this week?
Very well, yourself?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. When we spoke last week, we were kind of still in lockdown. We had really no idea if we were going to come back and when. Things have kind of moved on a little bit on one hand, where the league have said we can start on the 12th of December. But you kind of look around what's going on and COVID-19, you think, is that really possible? What's your thoughts?
Very difficult, mate. I have to be honest, because selfishly and mentally, I'm really struggling in this lockdown. It's been really tough. I know a few of the boys and the players are struggling because you were out, you were back, you had that first one. It was sort of all new, and then you were back playing. You were back amongst it. You were with the players. You were getting that buzz of a Saturday and a Tuesday. To have it taken away again is really tough. But you understand why. It wasn't until this week a very good friend of mine tested positive and has been very ill. And until you speak to him and he tells you kind of, people are actually dying from this. And then when you've got it's very scary and the symptoms are not nice. And you sort of put things in perspective and you sometimes think, well, is it worth it, going back and playing? But I think we have to find a compromise, Steve, and I think we have to get back to some sort of normality. I think we have to get back to playing football because whether we like it or not, mental health is a massive part of this, and we keep going on about it, and is a really big part of it. People do need their football. They do need whatever else they do away from their houses, and it is important. So, listen, I think personally we need to go back. We need to try it again, whether that's behind closed doors or not. Listen, we're going to cost a lot less money than not some of the teams in our league, but the majority of the teams in our league will cost a lot less money than the Conference South, North, and National League do, and the leagues below will cost less and less and less as well. So, if we could get some help and play these games behind closed doors, maybe that is the route to go. I think possibly it could be, because we've got to try and get this going. We've got to try and get back and then introduce crowds slowly. Is it going to be too much by going back on the 12th and having 400, 500, 600 back in grounds? It could be. We don't know, but what I don't want is to go back and then they're talking about coming out for Christmas and going back in another 28-day lockdown. That's no good. That's no good for anyone. It's no good for me. So I would like to think that we can get back to playing. I know there's been some money released, whether that's to go back in behind closed doors, we don't know. That would be my preference, that we try and go back behind closed doors, get some help for a month or two, and then we're back to normality. But we've got to try and get back somehow.
Okay, so that's all to be decided. But before we kind of look ahead in too much detail, time to look back. So today we're going to spend some time having a chat about our first home game of 2020. It's Hendon versus Weston-super-Mare. It was on the 4th of January. It's hard to believe, sitting here now, Lee, where we should have had a game today. We're sitting around talking to each other from our homes. That at the beginning of the year, who would ever have thought we'd be in the position that we're in now? But we are. So let's have a look back then at this game. As I say, it was the 4th of January 2020. It's Hendon against Weston-super-Mare. Now, this game, Lee, came on the back of like a home draw against Hartley-Wintney, and then successive bank holiday defeats. It was Harrow Borough we lost to at home on Boxing Day, and I don't think I've ever interviewed you being so down after a game as that one. And then we lost at Chesham on New Year's Day. What was the mood coming into the Western game after those defeats?
Listen, it was a tough Christmas period, I have to be honest, for the family, because I wasn't very good to be around, because it was really hard, Steve. I remember saying to you, we brought in 8 to 10 new players, and normally you bring 8 to 10 new players in pre-season, and you have 5-6 weeks for it to gel, and you watch the performances get better and better. We were trying to do it in the season, and I think we'd come off the back of beating Merthyr or drawing with Blackfield and Langley, and then we went into Hartley and we were average and could have got beat, probably should have got beat. And then we went to Harrow Borough, and it was a performance like I'd never seen us put in. And it was a concern because Harrow were in and around us. They were on a bad run at the time. And you had to try and pick yourself up. And I actually see a little improvement against Chesham. But the problem I faced was we were going into Chesham, Weston-super-Mare, Met Police away, Gosport. And the next 3 or 4 games were very, very tough. So it was an improved performance. But when you've got Weston coming to our home ground, we knew what a hard game it was going to be. For me, they're one of the top sides in the league, although at the moment I don't think their league position shows what a good side they are. They're technically the best footballing side in the league. They're renowned for playing football. They've got a manager who loves playing football, and they've got top players at their football club. So it was always going to be a really tough game, and we had to approach it right that day and put in a performance.
So the squad then, the 16 available, many of them are still with us. One name who joined for the first time that day, though he didn't play, was Simeon, a youngster I think you signed from Staines. What did you see in him?
Not a lot at the time. He was hard to get hold of. It was someone had rang me about him and said there's a right back at Staines, go and get him, he's outstanding. And I trust the opinion of the guy. So I put the 7 days in. I spoke to Simeon. He said he was signing. I never heard a thing from him for 2 weeks. And then he signed and he said he was going to come to Chesham. And I got a phone call from him. He reckons he was at Chesham. So it was very strange, and he turned up on a Saturday, and I thought, I'll bear with the lad and see what he's about. And he I think he was on the bench. I'm not sure if we played Needham Market on the Tuesday or not after, but obviously, listen, Simeon's gone on to do great things, and I'm a firm believer in the lad now. But it was a very strange signing for me at the time, and obviously I didn't have much trust in him straight away to play him, so we put him on the bench for that one.
So we saw Simeon kind of for the first time. He didn't play. You also had the mercurial Andronicus Georgiou on loan from Stevenage. Now, how on earth did you get him?
Andronicus is a lad I've known for a long, long time. It's a fantastic talent, and I really mean this, and I really hope Andronicus reaches the levels that I believe and a lot of people believe he can reach. Listen, there's some underlying problems. He's had a very close bereavement in his family that I don't believe Andronicus at the time that he signed us had got over. But a fantastic talent, and only watching the game back last night, so good, such a threat, and I wish we still had him now at times, because he was on his day was as good as anything in the league. He really was, and having Sean on one wing and Andronicus on the other, that was a real handful, and especially on that day against Weston.
So you mentioned Sean. We started brightly. Sean had a couple of early chances. Sean Lucien, he's barely recognisable now from the player that we had before. Now, I remember asking you about that many months ago. But for us supporters, the change in him is incredible. What do you put it down to?
I don't know. I'm having this discussion with someone at the moment whose lads just in and out of some pro clubs at the moment, and what one manager thinks of one player, another manager will think different. And I've just got so much admiration and time for Sean Lucien. He's just one of them players. He's like my own, and I think he's a fantastic talent. I don't think certain managers understand him. He goes through hot and cold spells. The one thing I'll say with his time at Hendon, I don't think he's had many cold spells with us at the moment. But I'll play him, and he knows I'll play him. And I think Sean Lucien has to have that. And Sean Lucien needs to know he's loved. Sean Lucien needs to know he's playing. And the talent is there. Everyone can see it. And, for me, I give him player of the year last year, and rightly so, because he come to us at a really tough time. He didn't have to come. He had an offer from another club as well at the time. And he didn't have to come to us, and he trusted me. He trusted coming back to the football club where he did have a really hard time. And after 2 or 3 games in, he's saying, "Gaffer, what are we doing? What are we doing?" But it was just being patient. And listen, and the rest is history for me. We've now seen a fantastic player and servant to the football club.
Excellent. So Sean had a couple of early chances, but it's still 0-0. But just before the half hour, we take the lead. Last week, we were talking about an unlikely scorer in Tom Hamlin. We take the lead this time with another unlikely scorer. It's Luke Tingey.
Yeah, and at least I don't need to keep going on about Luke. I told you what I feel about him last week. Fantastic player, and didn't want to lose him. But we felt going into that game that we needed to try and be really big and strong. The one thing Western eyes is a really good footballing side, and if you leave holes and gaps around the pitch, they'll punish you. And I think with Weston, it's really important you try and stay in the game because they are so attack-minded. They're so good at what they do. So we brought Luke in at right back. We knew with Luke, and like anyone knows, he's got that long throw, which we felt was a real weapon that we were going to try and use on every occasion. He strikes a fantastic ball and he attacks the ball really well as well. And when Luke's in the right frame of mind, Luke's a really good player. And, you know, the one thing that we felt, we had Eddie Ashodi going in the box, we had Luke Tingy going in the box, and we had Tommy Smith going in the box and attacking the corners. And, you know, it fell to Luke and he's just rifled it home and it put us 1-0 up. And then we knew that Weston would have to come out at us and come and get us.
So just before half time, they did have a great chance to level when our keeper brought down one of their players. It's a penalty, but Rihard saved it. How did he manage to sign Rihard? So I get as an international, an under-21 international, and he's able to come and play for Hendon.
Again, you know, it's one of them. I felt it was probably the signing of the season at the time because I'm very fortunate that Darren Curry grew up with my wife and his brother Lee and my brother-in-law Alfie. They all grew up together. So they've remained friends ever since. So Darren's a good friend of ours. And I remember speaking to him because we did have trouble with the goalkeeper early, if you remember. We had Dante, we had Patrick, he never quite worked out for. And he said, look, he's young, he's big, he's tall, and you know, he could be anything he wants to be, but you have to be aware that he's never played this level of football. So you were taking a risk, but everyone I spoke to said, no, he'll be fine. Listen, it was the best signing we made at the time because he was outstanding. And let's go back to them games, Merthyr and the Western game. We got put under big pressure for long periods, and Riyadh was some of the reason why we stayed in that game. And they got the penalty, and we knew the lad Laird liked to go to the keeper's left, so we did warn Riyadh. And the one thing with Riyadh, if he does dive, he covers most of the goal. So we knew if he went the right way, he'd have a chance. And lo and behold, he's gone the right. It was a fantastic save as well. And I remember it really well. It was a great save, and it kept us in front.
So half time then, the mood would have been, I guess, a whole lot different. We've gone in 1-0 up rather than a 1-0. Do you remember what you were saying to the guys at the break?
Just keep being patient, just keep being positive, keep sitting behind the ball and letting them play their stuff because I keep going back to it and harping on. They are a fantastic footballing side, Weston. And if you come out and you leave spaces, they'll punish you. Especially last year with Bradley Ash and players like that up front. I think they're even better this year, and you'll see them kick on when we come back. There's no doubt about that. But we felt that they'd have to come out at us and they'd leave gaps in behind. So if we were patient, I think the next goal was the crucial goal. Whoever got that would go on and possibly win the game. And luckily that one fell to us. Yeah,
so you're right. I mean, there were chances for both teams in the early stage of the second half, but we got that crucial second goal, and it proved to be the goal of the season from Liam Brooks.
Listen, Brooksy does what Brooksy does best, and he's the one player I feel we've missed the most this year. You look at our performance at Walton Casuals, we've not reached that performance, and Liam Brooks was in that side. Hopefully he'll be fit when we get back. But I remember the day we took Kingsley out the side, I felt that we wasn't getting what we needed from him. He looked a little bit tired. He needed refreshing. I think we took Joe Felix out the side as well. And we got Brooksy. And the one thing I felt that Weston were kind of suited to Brooksy because they're a football inside. It gives Brooksy the space as well to do what he does best because they're flamboyant in the way they play, that they leave big gaps, and Brooksy does what he does best and gets on the ball. And to this day, I thought he was the best player on the pitch, and the goal summed up his performance. You know, Riyadh's kicked it 700 foot in the air, and to bring it out the sky and roll a centre half like that and to finish it was exceptional. It was it was a goal of the season by far, up there with Sean Lucian's against Dunstable. But it was just a fantastic finish, and again, it may be our day that day because it come off, and it could have gone anywhere in the ground, but he's rifled it in the bottom corner.
And 5 minutes later, the scorer turns provider. You just mentioned him on loan. Joe Felix made it 3. He didn't stay with us very long. Thoughts about him?
You're gutted to lose Joe. Listen, he's doing really well at Billericay, and I'm really pleased for the lad. The one thing is he's a lovely, lovely lad, but I felt he was advised really badly last year, and I've made no bones about that. You know, there was a little falling out with the agent because he had a couple of games on the bench. but I felt Joe was getting used to the level, and there were certain games that Joe had done really well, and there's certain games that I felt got swallowed up. And the first half against Hartley, really good. The second half, when Hartley went really big and strong, we lost Joe in that game. So it was really disappointing to lose him. I didn't want to lose him. I felt that he'd give us an energy and a brightness. And you see that when the game was 2-0, we brought Joe on in that game, and he run riot, because that's what Joe Felix does. He runs, he works really hard, he's got good quality. And the game had opened for him to do that. And he went and got the goal, made the box. Brooksy done great down the line to get the cross in, and Joe finished it. And that was what Joe brought to us. And that was I'd still love to be working with Joe now, but he's gone on to bigger and better things, and fair play to the lad. I really hope he kicks on, because he's a good kid. But it was disappointing when I see that he'd left us, never really went anywhere, and then ended up at Newton Casuals just before the lockdown and played against us. That was disappointing, because I felt that he should have stayed with us and he'd been playing for us.
Okay, so at 3-0, can a manager just kind of think, job done, relax, enjoy the rest of the game?
No, not with teams like with Weston, because they never stop. They're that good that I believe that Weston, no matter what the score, can come back and cause you a problem. They are a very good side. You look at their team on paper this year, you look at their team on paper last year, they're as good as anything. For me, they were my bet this year for the league. At the moment, it hasn't quite happened, but they will hit form, and they'll be a very, very dangerous side. And again, last year, you just never felt settled against them, because I think if you remember, they were still coming. But again, they'd leave one or two at the back to our 2 or 3. And we were then obviously always going to hit them on the counter-attack when we won that ball back. And I felt that's what we'd done really well on the day. We hit them really well on the counter, and we caused them big problems.
A final goal, I guess, kind of sums up, when luck's with you, it's luck. The luck's going to be with you. And when it's against you, it's never going to happen. So the final goal is a nice bit of skill from Sam Corcoran. Good shot, hits the post. Tell me what else happens.
I think you've gone on to it there about when your luck's in and your luck's it isn't. I felt just before lockdown our luck wasn't in at all, because you look at your Matt Ball's chances, you already just shot his chances against Met Police and the game on the Saturday. We just had no luck. But on that day, we did have luck, and I believe your luck comes and goes, and I'm sure we'll have our luck this season as well. But it was just one of them days, wasn't it, that we brought Corks on. He'd been skiing for 2 weeks. He was probably about 37 beers deep as well when he come back. He was stiff as a board from skiing. But he's a great lad, a fantastic person, great for the changing room, a real good character and a really good player, Corks. He goes very underrated for me. He's a good footballer. He keeps the ball really well, and he'd done that. We brought him on that day because we felt that Weston were getting a lot of the ball still, and we needed to keep the ball. We were the team in control. We were the team winning the game, but we couldn't pass the ball. So we brought him on, and lo and behold, I think it was one of his first touches. He touches it in. He has a strike. It hits the post, hits the keeper on the back of the head and goes in the empty net. And listen, then you can kind of relax and think, listen, we've done this now. And it was a fantastic feeling, a great 3 points.
So the mood in the dressing room at the start of the game is, you've lost a couple of games, not played particularly well. Suddenly, we've stuck 4 unanswered goals against one of the highest rated teams in the league. What did you say to the team at the end?
No, I was always, I remember we would talk, Steve, before interviews, and I would say to you there that I was firmly in belief that the team would come good. It was just, and I'm in that belief now as well, that I think we've got a really good side, and we had a good side then, but we were trying to create a team in pre-season, in the season. So it was really tough, but I knew that at some point someone was going to be on the back end of a defeat. The problem was you didn't want to keep getting beat and losing the confidence, and you'd been beat at Harrow, you'd been beat at Chesham, you then got to Weston. As I said, the games were coming thick and fast. So it was just saying to the boys that they thoroughly deserved it. And the reason I believe that they won that game is because they outworked Weston. They stuck to the game plan. They took the set pieces right. They ground Weston down. They soaked up immense pressure at the time. And if you do that and you tick them boxes, you'll win games of football. And that's, for me, what we've done on the day.
So that was a special afternoon. Next week, we're going to be focusing on another special afternoon, and it's hopefully one that might be repeated in our first game back, if we can come back, on the 12th of December. Who are we going to be talking about next week, Lee?
Yeah, Dorchester away. A cracking game. One that for me sort of said, yeah, that's us done. We got away from where we were in a really hard place from November, and great for a couple of younger players as well. And we'll talk about that goal next week. But another great performance.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed it. Have a safe week. Have you got any kind of training in for the team to do? So again, like long distance stuff. What have you trying to get them to do?
Listen, it's so difficult, you know, because we're trying to keep the boys fit and healthy, and they can only do that themselves as well because we can't keep an eye on it. So we have a Zoom meeting. We set them some challenges over the week. We ask them to get their times in, and they're doing it. They're doing it great. And we'll have to just hopefully look. A week on Thursday, we'll be back. We'll be back training. We'll be back playing some friendlies, and we'll be back ready for the restart of the season. But listen, there's no good restarting the season if we're going to have to stop it again in January. This has to happen now. If we're going to start the season, it needs to start properly. It needs to finish. There's no good, you know, stopping halfway through again, because for me, then it'll be done. So it's really important now that we get this finished and we do it right.
All right. Well, let's hope we can. Have a safe week, and we'll look forward to chatting to you about the Dorchester away game, which has my favourite goal of the season next week. Listen, you be safe. Catch you next week. Cheers, Lee.
Thank you. Cheers.